It is primary election night in Colorado, and it is one of the most interesting ones we've seen in years. We're glad you're with us. I'm Alexandra Lewis.
And I'm Kyle Clark. Democrats have picked the presumptive frontrunner for Colorado governor in November in a runaway contest, and Denver Democrats are poised to send a Democratic socialist to Congress for the first time. NBC News is calling the Democratic primary for governor for Phil Weiser, the longtime underdog in this race, thought to be trailing by Michael Bennet by 20 or 30 points, surged to a 10-point win tonight. Our Jennifer Meckles was at the Weiser watch party, which from the jump tonight, Jenny, they knew they had this.
Yeah, everybody was really confident, even at the beginning of the night before the very first returns came in. And Attorney General Phil Weiser is promising to be a people-first governor. He says this is what helped him close that gap. And the people I talked to in this room tonight say the same thing. It was that he got out and visited every county. It was the interactions he had with these people over the last year. Maybe the people who track these races were surprised, but the people who came to this room said they weren't at all. Whenever he entered this race, Senator Michael Bennet was the favorite, right? We know that. He was also the establishment guy, the guy in Washington. And for two men who really weren't all that far apart on policy and where they fell within the Democratic Party, the challenge here was going to be distancing himself from his opponent. And Weiser said, Bennett's the establishment guy. I'm the guy here in Colorado. He had a prominent job before, right? He's the attorney general. He's made his name fighting President Trump through lawsuits, but he was able to distance himself just enough to say, I'm promising something new. I'm promising bold. And again, I want to be the people's governor. And when we talked to him tonight and asked him, how did you close that gap? This was his explanation.
Coloradans want someone who's on their side, working side by side with them. That's what our campaign was about. That's what people in the room here felt. That's how I'm going to govern.
So some of the voters that I talked to here tonight, Kyle, also told me that they felt like Weiser may have benefited from some turnout in this race from progressives, even if he wouldn't be described as an extra left, a very progressive candidate. And I know you're going to talk about another really interesting race coming up here, the congressional district in Denver, but there was some sentiment in the room that may have helped a little bit here, just kind of energize and mobilize, if you will. Now, we know that the Republican Party hasn't had a governor in a long time in this state, and so the person who wins this primary tonight, Weiser, for all intents and purposes, is expected to be the next governor. When we talked to Weiser as well about, like, you've kind of got a couple of different factions in this party, depending on what happens in some of these other races, and just the people who did or did not turn out for you. You're sort of the umbrella now. You are the face of this party moving forward. How do you bring them all together? And again, he goes back to, I have been across the state. I'm the people's guy. I'm going to do it again in November and seal the deal here. Back to you guys.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Jenny, right? That Phil Weiser is going to become the face of the Democratic Party in Colorado because you have John Hickenlooper, who won his primary tonight and is headed to another term in the Senate, but he's reaching retirement age and he's kind of faded from view. Democrats have soured on Jared Polis. They want him out of the picture. So Weiser has the opportunity to build the future of the party. Jenny Meckles, terrific work tonight. Thank you. Let's look at that Republican primary for governor. Whoever wins this is going to be the longest of long shots in November. Colorado has elected one Republican governor in the last 55 years. But we have a surprising result at the moment in which State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer, a non-MAGA traditional Republican, has a slight lead over Ministry Leader Victor Marx, who had proclaimed himself to be on a Christian crusade to revitalize Colorado. Light on policy, big on vibes. And he had proclaimed himself to be a runaway frontrunner in this race. He was an enormous fundraising leader, but currently trails Barb Kirkmeyer.
Congressional District 1, when you take a look at the watch party, certainly a tale of two watch parties. When you take a look at the left, very somber mood for the longtime Democratic Congresswoman Diana DeGette, who basically got her packing papers today representing District 1. The one on your right, her primary challenger, Malat Quiros, who had confetti going at about 7:03 with that first round of votes. The dump, surprising, right, that she got so many so early.
Right out of the gate. Associated Press within the last minute has just called the race for Malat Quiros. Colorado is sending a Democratic socialist to Congress for the first time. Her lead over Diana DeGette continues to grow. If you've been watching 9 News throughout the evening, this is not a surprise. This is what we've been saying since 7:30 tonight, that Diana DeGette did not have a path to victory based on those early numbers. The Associated Press says this race is over. Malat Quiros, 29 years old as Diana DeGette's congressional career, which ends tonight, not with a retirement, as many Denver Democrats had urged DeGette to do over the years, but instead with a beating at the hands of a first-time candidate for office, a corporate attorney turned barista and a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Spencer Soicher has been at the Quiros Watch Party in Denver tonight. And being there, Spencer, there is no question about why she defeated Diana DeGette.
Yeah, there really isn't. If you look around this room right now, it's young people. This is a young crowd. I've never been to a watch party that looked like this. I've never been to a watch party that had grinding and the music blaring like it is right now. We're double headphoned up. We expect her to come out here and speak here momentarily. I don't think the people in this room know yet that the AP has called this race, but they think she's coming out to speak any second now. And when that last ballot dump came out about three or 4 minutes ago, the same thing, the confetti cannons, the same type of celebration we saw when it happened at 7, again at 8, again at, I believe, 9, and now we're seeing it again at 10. These people are excited about what they view as a revolution. And look behind me right now. You ever seen a campaign watch party that looked like a mosh pit? This is what Democrats have been trying to capture, was the young people. Now the question is, will this be effective, and is this what the image is of the Democratic Party in Colorado as well, Kyle?
Yeah, and Spencer, this will be the headline that America sees tomorrow, right? That this is a continuation of Democratic Socialist victories in other places, most recently New York City. The folks who do not know Malat Quiros, which I would venture to say is most Coloradans at this point, outside of a Democratic Party politics in Denver, are about to learn who she is, right? She's very young, she's very inexperienced, she's very intelligent, she's very eloquent, unlike some of the folks that we've seen in New York City who seem to be saying sensationalized things just for shock value. That's not her. She's very dogmatic, right? She is a hard leftist. She is a Democratic Socialist through and through, but she is a very good advocate for her point of view. And I think Colorado and America is about to hear that. Whether or not they agree with her views, they are going to hear those views explained in detail by a 29-year-old barista.
Yeah, and I think they're about to hear it on 9 News as well. It looks like she's about to make her way outside of this room where she has been, at least for some period of time tonight. She's been in that room at least once, I know, with a far-left streamer, Hassan Piker, who has really helped boost her profile. He's here tonight. There's been lines around this place of people lining up to take pictures with him. He has some, what some would describe as pretty far-left views on Israel, and obviously Quiros has had to deal with some accusations of anti-Semitism as well. But this is a moment for the Democratic Socialists in Colorado and across the country, right?
Right, there are Democratic Socialists on Denver City Council and in the state legislature, and now soon to be in the Colorado congressional delegation, because obviously a Republican is not going to be competitive in Colorado's first congressional district. Here she comes on the way. All right. Yep. Go ahead and move your camera if you guys want to move the camera over there.
All right. I'm getting out of your way. You don't
do
want
it.
to hear me.
You do it. We'll continue to kind of talk about this here as we get the camera ready for Malat Quiros. Right. We talked about how Israel was a central issue of this race. Diana DeGette, who has been supportive of U.S. aid to Israel over the years. Malat Quiros has called for an all-out arms embargo to Israel, offensive and defensive weapons. She has called the actions of Israel in Gaza a genocide. She has said that the October 7th Hamas massacres of Israelis were the inevitable consequence of apartheid by Israel. In an interview with 9 News, she extrapolated that to say that she thought that 9/11, the terror attacks here, were the inevitable consequence of American foreign policy. Let's listen in here. I can't even see who we're talking about here. Okay, this is a campaign staff or a supporter. So we'll wait until Quiros gets up there to turn things over to her. But where she really ran into some trouble and some controversy in recent weeks is in an interview here on 9 News. in which I asked her if the Boulder firebombing of elderly Jewish people was anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism. And she hedged and said, I don't know what's in the heart of the attacker. And we heard from a lot of folks in the Jewish community that they found that answer to be unacceptable. And certainly Denver's Jewish community has outreach to Malat Quiros, not a monolithic community, but some of that community feel like she hasn't really listened to their concerns. Not that she's going to adopt their policy positions, but hasn't really listened to their concerns. And I think that answer is going to be replayed. It already is being replayed on Fox News and other places to paint her as an extremist. Her view, you can say it's extreme, right? Meaning outside the mainstream. It is also nuanced in the sense that she will explain to you exactly why she believes what she believes, but a good number of people, including within her own party, hear it and say, whoa, that's unacceptable.
But do you think now with this win, she's going to want to appeal to the larger audience here in Colorado, and maybe she strays away from that?
It's a great question. I mean, she has had overtures to the Jewish community in Colorado, and Colorado's 1st congressional district has the largest Jewish population of any district in the state. She's made overtures to say, I'm not anti-Semitic. I condemn the attacks of October 7th, even if I think that they were inevitable. You know, I condemn the firebombing in Boulder, even if I'm not willing to say that I believe that it's anti-Semitism versus anti-Zionism. Again, she will be painted as an extreme reactionary. And I think it's fair to call some of her views extreme if you just look at where the rest of American politics are right now. But when you hear her talk about it, you will hear somebody who has the ability to translate those views to a larger audience, as indicated by the fact that she's just won a party primary in Denver. And I don't think that you're going to hear the exact same tone on things that you necessarily hear out of New York City. And please, we will go right back to her watch party as soon as she speaks. But obviously, the standard bearer for democratic socialism in America right now is New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, right? Who has some views that are very much outside the mainstream of American politics. He also really tends to pick his battles. He's a phenomenal communicator, no matter what you think of his political ideology, and he picks his battles. Malat Quiros does not strike me, at least in my conversations with her so far and watching her campaign, as somebody who picks her battles. She chooses select all, right? She's willing to fight on any ground for democratic socialism, but like Mamdani, she is an exceptional communicator. She also is a 29-year-old woman. Right? And I asked her, like, what experience do you bring that will make you effective in Congress at the age of 29? Right? And that's young.
Well, confidence for one, because she stepped in line, right? There were so many people waiting for Diana DeGette to finally retire and walk away. She didn't do that. And Quiros just said, no, I'm here, and I'm going to take her on.
Yeah. Do we have the ability to look back into Quiros' party to see what's going on? So we've got other supporters. Actually, we got other supporters who are talking and who are revving up the crowd and so forth. She got an enormous amount of support from Democratic Socialists outside of Denver, to the point that some establishment people kind of prickled at this, which honestly struck me as funny because Diana DeGette got an enormous amount of dark money from outside Colorado to help her. This was one of those races that within the last couple of weeks nationalized. It became a national race in which Diana DeGette said, help, I'm drowning, you must send me help. What she got was dollars, which she spent on this TV station and others while she was refusing to come in and answer questions here because she didn't want to get tripped up. But she didn't necessarily have the boots on the ground help that could overcome the advantage that Malat Quiros had built by going door to door. Their phone banking numbers were astonishing in the last couple of days. Like, if you are a Democrat in Denver, there's a very good chance that you heard from the Quiros campaign 1, 2, or 13 times. They were very well resourced for a Democratic Socialist campaign, and that's how they beat Diana DeGette. We'll take you to Malat Quiros when she speaks. First, we want to go to our Phil Lipoff, who is at the DeGette watch party. And Phil, that thing was the sound of a deflating balloon from the start tonight.
Kyle, it was. The minute we got here, we looked around and said there were about 15, 20 people here. It did not have a good feel, and we got here 6:30, even before that first ballot drop. You were just talking about the dollars that she got, that Diana DeGette got. Dollars don't matter, as you know, when there is a groundswell and when your opponent is saying it's the dollars that matter, it's the corporate money that matters. I can tell you this, there are 4 people left in this room right now, 4. 2 of them are photographers, 2 of them are reporters. The bartender's gone. Everyone is gone. It was an hour ago that Diana DeGette's campaign manager said to me, this race isn't going to be called tonight, and she's not going to speak tonight. Now, when he said that, I thought the race might be called, but I believed him when he said Diana DeGette was not going to speak tonight. This started, Kyle, as you and I have talked about, from the caucus. I'm almost not getting on the ballot. I spoke to a 30-year supporter of Diana DeGette tonight, who's in his 70s, who said he has spoken to many younger voters who voted for Diana DeGette at least once, if not more, over the last 30 years, and did not vote for her this time. There was a groundswell. Spencer has been telling you all night about the age of the voters who were at the watch party for Melak Kiros, and that's the tale of the story. There are voters who voted for Diana DeGette in the past who didn't vote for her this time. There was a swell. She was caught off guard. Even her voters tonight told me that. I said, was she complacent after 30 years? This was the first real challenge she's had in 30 years. And they said, I wouldn't use the word complacent, but I would say she was surprised by how this whole thing progressed. And that is where we are tonight. This room is completely empty. Diana DeGette is not going to speak tonight. And the AP has called the race from Melak Kiros.
It is not shocking that this happened, Phil, because we knew that Kiros was going to run a competitive race down the stretch. It is still going to take a lot of Coloradans by surprise to see that the woman who inherited this seat from Pat Schroeder, a legend of American politics, and who was a vocal progressive for years, even if she stayed as somewhat of a backbencher in Congress and wasn't very prominent, that this is how her career ends tonight with a bit of a whimper.
And look, Kyle, the way it began was when Pat Schroeder retired and she was considered the younger, more progressive candidate who was going to take the torch. Well, tonight, 30 years later, the exact amount of time that Pat Schroeder held the seat, she is now handing the torch, not willingly, to a younger, more progressive candidate.
Not by choice. And that's how it ends for Diana DeGette. Phil Lipoff, thank you very much. Again, we will take you inside Melak Kiros' victory party tonight. As soon as she speaks, we will hear from the first Democratic socialist ever elected to Congress out of Colorado. And we want to take a quick look at the results in the Democratic primary in Colorado's 8th congressional district. This will be the race to watch in November, one of the few competitive races that Colorado expects between Democrats and Republicans in November. And tonight, Democrats overwhelmingly selected State Representative Manny Rutinel to represent them against Republican Congressman Gabe Evans. Gabe Evans, just the second person to represent that 4-year-old district. It was a Democratic seat for 2 years, Republican seat for 2 years, and then in November, voters will decide whether Manny Rutinel should return it to Democratic hands or whether Gabe Evans should earn a second term. The 8th congressional district is the 40% Latino and Hispanic district, which stretches from the northern suburbs of Denver up to Weld County. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.